In 1987, a 56-year-old man sat down in Taiwan and started a company. He had no product to sell, no brand, no logo. His company would never make anything you would walk into a shop and buy. And yet, what he built that day is inside your phone right now, inside the laptop or tablet you are watching this on, inside the car sitting in your driveway, inside the servers that run every AI system on earth. You have never heard his name, but your entire life runs on his work. This is the story of Taiwan and how a small island with nothing became the most important place on earth. To understand where Taiwan is today, you have to go back to what it was. And what it was nothing special. In the 1960s, Taiwan was a small developing economy. It exported sugar, shoes, umbrellas, simple things, low value things. No oil, no natural resources, nothing under the ground worth fighting over. And there was another problem, a bigger one. China, its enormous neighbor, had never accepted Taiwan as a separate country. It considered the island its own territory, had always considered it that way. So here is what Taiwan leaders were looking at in the early 1970s. A small island, no resources, no geopolitical weight, and a giant next door that wanted it back. They understood something very clearly. A country that the world doesn't need is a country the world won't defend. So they sat down and asked themselves one question: what do we need to become? In 1973, an oil crisis hit the global economy. Prices spiked, growth slowed. Countries that depended on cheap manufacturing felt it hard. Taiwan was one of them. The government looked at the situation and made a decision. The old model was finished. Shoes and sugar had a ceiling, and Taiwan was approaching it. They needed a new industry, something that would make Taiwan genuinely valuable, not just cheap, valuable. They looked at where the world was heading, and they landed on semiconductors. Now, this was not an obvious choice. Semiconductors were the most technically demanding manufacturing process on earth at the time. The Americans had built it, the Japanese were competing for it. Both had decades of experience, billions of dollars of infrastructure, and armies of trained engineers. Taiwan had none of that. In fact, the Taiwanese government's own economists said it was too risky, too expensive, too far behind to catch up. But some of them saw it another way. If we pull this off, nobody can afford to lose us. That changes everything. So, they bet everything on it. 1976. Taiwan went to RCA, the Radio Corporation of America, one of the early pioneers of semiconductor technology. They made a deal, a formal agreement. Taiwan paid for access. RCA agreed to share knowledge and technology. And then Taiwan did something smart. They didn't just buy the blueprints and try to figure it out alone. They sent people. A team of young Taiwanese engineers, mostly in their 20s and 30s, packed up and went to America. Think about who these people were. They were not senior executives. They were not industry veterans. They were young engineers from a small island that had never made a single chip. They walked into RCA's facilities knowing they were behind, knowing the Americans had decades on them. And they did what people do when they know they cannot afford to fail. They worked harder than anyone else in the building. They watched everything, asked every question, took notes on things nobody thought to write down. Some of them later said they felt the weight of their entire country on their shoulders. Then they came home and they built a demonstration factory in Taiwan. And here is the part that tells you everything you need to know about what was coming. That factory, built by a team of people who had never done this before, outperformed RCA's own facilities in the United States. The students had beaten the teachers in under 2 years. Fast forward to 1987. A man named Morris Chang is 56 years old. He was born in China, educated in America, spent decades climbing the ranks at Texas Instruments, one of the biggest names in the semiconductor world. By any measure, his career was already complete. The Taiwanese government didn't see it that way. They called him, offered him a mandate. Build us something. What he built was TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. But the company itself was not the idea. The idea was something else entirely. Here is how the chip industry worked before Morris Chang. If you wanted to make a chip, you designed it and then you manufactured it. Same company, same building, start to finish. That meant you needed billions of dollars in factories, thousands of engineers, decades of manufacturing experience just to get started. Morris Chang looked at this and said, what if we separate the two? What if one company just manufactures, nothing else? No designing, no selling products, no competing with customers. Just making chips for anyone who needs them, better than anyone else on earth. It sounds simple, but nobody had done it before. And what it meant was this. Suddenly a brilliant engineer with a great chip idea didn't need a factory, didn't need billions of dollars, didn't need decades of experience. They just needed TSMC. Apple didn't need to build a factory. Nvidia didn't need to build a factory. Qualcomm, AMD, Broadcom, none of them did. They designed, TSMC built. And the world was never the same after that. What happened next was not dramatic. It was quiet. Decade after decade, TSMC just got better. They focused on one number above everything else: yield. How many chips out of every 100 come out perfect? Every fraction of a percentage point of improvement meant hundreds of millions of dollars. They reinvested everything they earned. They kept pushing. The chips got smaller, then smaller again. We are talking about structures so tiny, they make a virus look large. And with every generation, the gap between TSMC and everyone else grew wider. Companies tried to compete. Intel tried, Samsung tried, others tried. None of them could close the gap. By the time the world realized what had happened, it was already too late to change it. Today, TSMC manufactures roughly 90% of the world's most advanced chips. Let that number sit for a moment. 90%. Not a majority, not a leading share. 9 out of every 10 of the most advanced chips on earth. There is not a single product in the world with TSMC's name on it. But there is almost no product in your life that exists without them. Now, here is where the story becomes something else entirely. Because this is not just a business story, this is a geopolitical story. China has claimed Taiwan as its own for decades. The tension has never gone away. If anything, it has grown. But here is the problem that China cannot solve. In 2023, China received more than half of Taiwan's total semiconductor exports. More than half. China's own factories run on those chips. China's own phones, China's own military equipment, it all runs on those chips. The second largest economy on earth, dependent on the island, it says belongs to it. Think about that for a second. The country that wants to take Taiwan needs Taiwan to function. If it invades, it cuts off its own supply. There is no clean move here. But China is not the only one trapped. America looked at this situation and got nervous. Very nervous. So America passed the CHIPS Act, committed billions of dollars, built political will, and convinced TSMC to open a factory in Arizona. A factory on American soil, American workers, American security. Problem solved, right? Not quite. When construction began in Arizona, the project ran into trouble. Delays, quality issues, things that didn't make sense to the American workforce. TSMC had to fly in hundreds of its own Taiwanese engineers to get things back on track. Because it turns out the knowledge is not just in the blueprints. It is in the people, in the culture, in 50 years of obsession that cannot be packaged and shipped. Even the most powerful country on earth, with unlimited resources and political will, discovered it could not simply replicate what Taiwan had built. Everyone needs Taiwan, and nobody can replace it. Taiwan in the 1960s was selling shoes and sugar. Nobody was watching. Nobody thought anything remarkable was going to come from this island. But a small group of people made a decision. They picked the hardest thing they could think of, and they went and did it. Today, the most powerful nations on earth, they all need something that only Taiwan can provide. A small island, no oil, no army that can match its neighbors, no natural advantages, just a decision made a long time ago by people who understood one thing. The world will only protect what it cannot afford to lose. This has been the Far Observer.